for your patience. All right, so we want to welcome you. It's Wednesday night here on June 22nd. And to all those who are joining live and to those who might listen to the recording later, thanks for joining in. You know, one of our favorite sayings, probably because I wrote it years ago and it's not that profound, but it is, you know, learning is free, but not learning can be very expensive. I think we'll find some of that playing out in what David has to share with us tonight about mold. And we know that there are problems with the air that we breathe, you know, 3,000 or 4,000 gallons a day, even more if we're working out or running or something. We know there's problems with our drinking water, and it's up to us, you know, to make decisions about what we're going to allow into our body or what we allow into our home. And so we know that surface and air pathogens, or as I like to call them, because this is like kindergarten, it's show and tell. So we can talk about pathogens or we can talk about cooties. All right, it's all the same. And anything that we can do to get the enemy out of the camp is a good thing. And so I just want to encourage everyone that as we go through the presentation tonight, that you look for those things that might resonate with you, whether it's about the air and surfaces, whether it's about the water, whether it's about the laundry pure and getting toxins out of our clothes and out of our sheets that we sleep in. We have a variety of solutions for these problems. And that's our desire in the Healthy Home Showcase, is to share this technology so that everyone can just be educated and then they can decide, you know, what do you want to do about it? Okay. So, and I want to thank Liddy too. You know, Liddy got these calls going several months back, and we've been blessed to be a part of it. And sometimes we just get to take turns, and I know she's on, and I just want to give a shout out to Liddy and so many other leaders that have helped us along the way. So I'm pretty excited about David being on our call tonight. I had an opportunity to speak with him and Liddy earlier today. And so it's my pleasure to welcome David Deptula. He's the author of The American Injustice System, Toxic Mold War. Okay, and mold is a war that needs to be fought. So his story, you know, is about a mold survivor and someone who escaped an extremely sick home that almost took the lives of some of his family members. He's a highly qualified speaker to the mold industry, and no surprise, as he was helpful in establishing the first law dealing with mold legislation in Florida. And that has led to new laws in 12 other states, and that process is growing. So congratulations, and thank you, David, for taking on that effort. His motivation in writing his book will become clear to everyone on this Zoom call. So he'll be sharing about the massive health and financial losses that he and his family had to endure, and ultimately how those losses led to him and the technology that we'll be sharing tonight. So even though your Zoom lines are muted, please put your hands together or put your thumbs up in the air and give David Deptula a warm Zoom box welcome. Okay, so David, Lori will unmute you if you're not already, and we'll ask that you enlighten us with your journey with this evil thing called mold. Are you able to?
Thank you very much, Steve. Can everyone hear me? Lori?
Yep. We can hear you.
I want to thank everybody for listening tonight when Liddy and Steve this afternoon asked me to give a talk tonight. They do know that I do give speeches about what happened to our family. Steve mentioned a little bit about the legislation, et cetera. What I want to do is talk about the problem, not just the problem as you've heard about it before, but the severity of what happened to my family. When I do speak, I'm going to speak about health and wealth, just like Steve said. And I'm going to jump around a little bit, and then I'm going to hit everyone a real impact of how bad this affected our health. I'm going to try to take it slowly, and I'm going to talk about the joys of owning your first home as a provider, being that young family man and woman that bring your first two children into the estate home that you had custom designed with all the blessings in the world, working our own business, being extremely healthy, blessed with extreme health. And we were able to buy the home that we designed down here in South Florida. And we moved into that home. We moved 2 children in that home. Again, everyone was healthy. And I would say, better part of that first year, didn't feel too much of a problem. As a matter of fact, we used to put the kids down at night. My wife and I used to sit there and count those blessings. When I say a picture perfect life, couldn't ask for any more of the blessings on earth that any couple could have. And then we started having some problems, we noticed. We thought those problems might have had something to do with my daughter bringing some illnesses home from school. A lot of respiratory problems and sinus infections started. My other daughter was in a daycare part of the time. She used to visit with little friends that were at that time 2, 3 years old. And of course, kids do bring things home, as we all know. And initially, you don't think about anything like that. The business I was in, it was in the healthcare industry. So again, was I bringing things home to the family? You always kick your shoes off and you get cleaned up right away, but you still wonder. About the 2-year mark, we welcomed our 3rd child into the world. And we started noticing a massive amount of respiratory infections, tremendous amount. And you start to wonder, when is this going to stop? That started increasing to nonstop fevers. My oldest daughter started having, my wife started having bloody sinuses that would start having actual nosebleeds that occurred. And again, you see the doctors and they say, we'll give you some medicine for whatever. And you think it's nothing to it. And one day I was laying down in bed with my 2 daughters, the younger ones. I happened to look up to the ceiling. And you know, everyone's familiar with air conditioning or heating ducts and vents. And look at the vent. And I see inside the vent a glow into the vent of the light. And I could see black mold. I'll call black mold now. So I hopped up and got my flashlight and I looked. And you know, at that moment, everyone, I knew what the problem was with our respiratory problems because I worked in the medical field. I said, obviously we have a problem with our ducts. I'll take care of it tomorrow. I mean, just stop and think for a minute. We talk about the problem of mold and we talk about mildew. People say, I've seen that in my home. We've all done that. I'll take care of it tomorrow. And I did. Called him a competent AC technician. And he got on the phone with me and he said, Mr. Deptula. I said, call me Dave. I remember Richard to this day. He said, I have some bad news for you. I don't know what's wrong with your AC system, but your entire duct system on your 2 air handlers are completely polluted with mold. Completely soaked, wet. No one could diagnose this in the past because it was, you have your maintenance work done. Nobody goes into the ducting systems. I mean, nobody can get into them. He asked me for permission to cut into the ducts. And I came home right away and I looked. It was horrible. So I knew I had to act quickly. And I said, this is to my wife, Libby. I said, honey, this is what's going on. This is why everyone's been sick. Likelihood is I want all those ducts ripped out of the house. And I want to have new air handlers. She said, do we have to go to that degree? I said, sweetheart, we're going to get rid of this problem. Do I know what the severity of the problem is right now, everyone? No, absolutely not. It was air conditioning. Or was it? I called in at that time, a mold testing company and a remediation company separate from each other, allegedly separate from each other. And they had worked at the World Trade Center. They were probably one of the top 5 in the industry. I checked them out. I promise I did. And I said, what I'm gonna have you all do is after we have these new air handlers put in, I'm gonna have you run a mold test. I was reading all about it. Try to become an expert as quickly as possible. Or again, so I thought. We went in and had the air handlers replaced and the ducting systems all replaced. But before they turned them on, I had the mold test done. It was a alphabet soup of mold names. Stachybotrys black mold, the worst that you hear of. There are so many molds. No mold is considered healthy, no matter what we were told at the time. No mold is considered healthy. So I met with the founder of the company. He came over. He said, this is one of the worst readings I've ever seen down here in South Florida. What are we going to do about it? I'm going to give you an estimate. What it's going to cost to remediate your home. We're going to have to wet wipe everything down. We're going to have to throw out anything that would be breathable. Now, you hear this from people. You go out and check with other people. You're not going to do what somebody says right away. I would say within a matter of 4 days, I had talked to 4 of the companies that told me the same thing. So I knew that my wife and I were going to have to go through a major remediation before we turned those new air handlers on, or else we were going to have problems again. By the time that remediation started, everyone, there were little holes cut in the wall. They suck air out of the walls, and it goes into a petri dish. They found more signs of mold inside the wall cavities of the home. We ended up having over $116,000, $116,000 worth of damages. Things that had to be thrown out of the house. You might say, why to that degree? I'd like to take a moment before we talk about the wealth side further. And I want everyone to see how wealth and health really goes hand in hand with this problem we had. What turned out to be the largest to date, worst financial disaster of a family's home, their finances, and more importantly, their health. Let's talk about health. Now, I'm looking here and took my notes about the health. You know why? As human beings, we have a habit of not forgetting, but not thinking about things daily. After a few years go by, you have to train yourself that. And I think some of it comes with the good Lord naturally. I'm going to do this slowly. And I want everyone to think about this. This is the severity of the health problems that the Deptula family of 6 had. Mold allergies, nosebleeds, chronic fevers. We just discussed that a little while ago. The children had, the 4 of them at the time, my son was born into this later, had 146 respiratory related visits. And Steve and I spoke earlier. Steve is in the industry, has been in the industry in the past. I don't know if you're presently in it. 146 respiratory visits in a 3.5-year period for the children. Kind of perverse. And it gets worse. Pneumonia for a 2-year-old, double pneumonia. And I remember that day, my wife said, the doctor said, don't let her go out of the house. Keep her in the house for the next 7 weeks. And my brave wife said, I'll keep her in the house. Little did we know the house is what was causing the problem. Skin ulcers, oozing, subsequent scarring on the bodies. 2 miscarriages for my wife. Meniere's disease. Vertigo daily. Transverse myelitis, which is scarring on the back of the brain, on the spinal cord. Primary progressive multiple sclerosis. And unilateral deafness. I went through that list very slowly. I wrote that tonight. I write that every time I'm going to give a speech, and then I throw it away. You'll often hear, we're all here tonight, you'll hear about the dangers of mold. Have you ever heard of a list that badly of health problems? And I remember driving down the interstate one day, and I prayed to God. I said, whatever Libby and I have to go, my wife to go through, these 4 children have to survive this. We have to go, they have to survive it. The children today are adult children, young adult children. We did get our request of them being fine. They all have a little bit of asthma induced, and Steve's familiar with this, when there's cold temperatures and you run around a little bit. Other than that, everything they suffered from, they're fine. My wife and I remain with permanent disabilities today from this. It's kind of scary. And I've said on television before, on the cable networks, I want to scare people. I don't want to do this at night and give people nightmares, but I want you to think about yourselves, and I want you to think about your families. This is where you sleep. This is where you raise them. This is where you break bread. This is where you spend your most time. It's got to be healthy. There was no health for us at that time. Now, if I may, I'm going to go back to the financial side in a minute so everyone can see how expensive things could be. We had a complete remediation done. I told you how expensive it was. We had it tested after it was remediated. And we were told, A-OK. I looked at the reports. I had those reports looked at by the other 3 companies, and they said, you're all fine. And a strange thing happened after we moved in after 2 months. We had our 4th child born. And little Joe started choking as an infant, as a newborn. And I knew something wasn't right. You see, people declared themselves as experts because they maybe worked in the towers, Twin Towers, they worked wherever they worked, and they declared themselves experts. They might have had a little bit of licensing, but there was really no pro in this industry, regardless of what you heard years ago. There was no professional, true professional. We kind of became pros by experience. Tough education, right? You wish you went to a 4-6 year school for it, but no, this is what we had to learn. We abandoned the house a second time, and we abandoned it for good. And we went to a hotel with the clothes on our back, and that was it. And we left everything, even the things that were remediated the first time. We had our company go in and wipe off the things that were non-porous. I had those put away in a storage. They were safe. Things like jewelry, anything that isn't breathable. Now, I imagine everybody out there, I put new televisions, everything in every room you can imagine, new beds, and they were only 2 months old, and we abandoned it a second time. I had a second company come in that I did some research on, and the levels were sky high again in the house, sky high. It turned out that there were building defects in that home, and the building defects included the home was built on one side of the house under the moisture barrier here in Florida, and it was weeping up in the cavity. The air handlers were never sealed properly up in the attic. They're never properly sealed. And the home passed inspection, everyone. That's a common question everyone's going to ask me. Did you have it inspected? Yes. Did the county inspect it? Yes. I'm not saying this story to everyone tonight for you to feel bad about us, badly. I want you to think of yourselves. I want you to think about what's out there today that wasn't available for us. Something that could have been a solution for us. Something that maybe possibly would have made the health situations not be permanent, possibly. We'll never know. But yes, we're talking over $900,000 worth of damages. And we're talking about something that's worse than that. My wife and I would do anything to have the health we had at one time. It's not there today, but we did get our prayers as far as the 4 children were involved. Mm-hmm. I told this ugly story tonight because I want to end it on an up note. Steve, you and Lori are going to talk about a solution for everybody, an inexpensive solution. Where I live today, I have that solution. And I thank you for allowing me to talk tonight to everybody, Steve and Lori and Liddy. And God bless that all.
And David, what a profound journey you've been on. And the thing that strikes me, besides just the severity and the compassion, I think from probably everybody on this call that goes out to you and your family, is that even though we've only been sharing this technology for a little under 2 years, we share it a lot. You know, we do the Zoom every Wednesday, and we talk to people pretty much 7 days a week, not 24 hours a day, but if we have a chance to talk to somebody, we're talking about the technology. And like anything, what begins to happen is you kind of get used to it, you know, and you can take it for granted. And when I think about just the one set of tests that we have with ActivePure, that it neutralizes 90% of mold in a space in 30 minutes, and what that kind of technology might have meant, you know, in your situation. And as a healthcare practitioner, and I'm not a currently practicing respiratory therapist, but I did that for a long time. Then I had a home care company for a long time, and we maybe like some of your original mold guys, you know, we sold air filtration devices, you know, standalone devices. We had a small one and a big one, you know, 30 years ago. And at the time, we thought it was the best thing available. And I think it was. But knowing what I know now with this technology, we actually have solutions that work, you know, chemical-free, filterless, and not just for air and surfaces, you know, but water and whatnot. So thank you so much for sharing your story. If people wanted to access your book, where would they find it, on Amazon or what have you?
Amazon, Barnes and Noble, any of the bookstores will have it.
Okay.
And I'm really glad you allowed me to talk to everyone tonight. I do speak to different groups around the country, but this one was really close to me because I know there's finally a solution out there.
Yes.
And I've never said that over the years. When I met Lydia last year, I told her I have never said that, and a lot of people have approached me. Mm-hmm. Everyone, think about that tonight. I want you to think about everything I said when you're looking at the solution, how it would have helped the Deptulas, little by little, various areas of the home. God bless you all, and thank you.
Thanks so much, David. And the title of the book again is The American Injustice System: Toxic Mold War. I think you probably, as we do, understand the title much better now, having had that story. So what we want to do is not make light of the technology we're going to share, but to make sure that we provide you just enough information on it so that you can understand and decide for yourselves if this is something that you might want to have in your home or your car, your church, your business. This is about really bringing life into your living spaces. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to come over here, and we're gonna try and ask Lori to bring the laptop over. We'll see if this will work a little better.
We'll see.
And if it does.
All right, hold on, guys.
We just want to be able to have you see this. Maybe I'll just set this down. And, you know, I think that gives you a good idea. So we have this hooked up to our sink. This is the Living Water. It's a wonderful device. And what I want to share with you guys tonight, I realize you can't see my face, but hopefully you can hear me, is this allows you to have 9 different pHs. So you can have very acidic water, you can have very alkaline water. And for us, we've got a valve on top, and maybe if I'm lucky, I'll show you that valve right here. So make sure I don't run this water onto Lori's laptop. And we turn that valve. The unit comes on, and what comes out this spout is living water. What comes out this little drain pipe, that's what we don't want. And I think you can see on here, we have it set at 9.5. And what I want to share with you is something different that we haven't really shared before. When it comes to the living water, and when it comes to the H2 fuel, we're going to honor your guys' time here tonight by speeding up without getting in too much of a hurry. So that living water, you know, you have 10,000 liters that come out of that before you need to, you know, change some filters. And here's something that I've learned that's new. Hopefully it'll be good for some of you folks that are already using the living water. And for those of you that haven't, you should find it interesting, I think. So you know, you can go to EWG. It's the Environmental Working Group, ewg.org. And I wrote this down so I wouldn't forget it. If you go to that website, and then at the top, there's a green bar, and you'll be able to see tap water database. When you go to tap water database, you can put in your zip code, which I did for Champaign, Illinois, and it provided us what our water source has in it. So we learned that, keep in mind, the Environmental Working Group has a more strict levels of contaminants than does the EPA, okay? And so what we found in our water is that there was 11 contaminants that were above the EWG's levels of safety, what they consider safe. One of those contaminants was about 25 times higher than what they recommend. And all the way up to the worst one was about 250 times what they recommend. They were all within the EPA levels. So you take that for what it's worth. But they were well out of bounds with the Environmental Working Group. So what it also does is it'll show you for those specific contaminants, and we had about a dozen others that were below the Environmental Working Group's water testing, is that it showed what a carbon filter could do to those contaminants. It showed what reverse osmosis could do to those contaminants. And reverse osmosis is dead water, it takes everything out, including your minerals, which you need to have. And it showed what ionizers could do to your water. And what I found very interesting was that all of those contaminants of concern were reduced, effectively reduced, by the combination of carbon filtration and the ionizer. They took out everything that reverse osmosis would take out. That was new learning for me. So all I want to say is this: the better water you can have coming in to the living water, the greater the water coming out. And why is living water so important? It's because of it being structured water. So when that water comes out, it's microclustered. And yes, please do. And I'm gonna show you, and for those of you that have seen Craig Stevens, he's got a great showing of how microclustered water, how it looks, you know, or how to describe it. And he shows his tennis racket with a softball and a baseball and a tennis ball and a ping pong ball and a marble, you know, all the way down. And of course, none of those can get through the tennis racket. And then he pours something through the tennis racket. So when it comes to microclustered water, why is that important? Because microclustered water is so small that it'll actually get intracellular. And when you get intracellular water, guess what happens? You get much greater hydration, and more water intracellular, more metabolites, more byproducts of metabolism are going to get flushed out. And that's great for your health. It's great for your energy. Most people don't ever think of water as an antioxidant, right? So we're going to spend just a little bit more on the water, and I'm going to show you my latest visual, because remember, this is show and tell, and this is about showing and telling. So you got to have something simple, right? Everybody probably knows what this is. This is going to be real easy. Got peppercorns in a pepper grinder, right? So think of those peppercorns as your dead water, your tap water, even RO water, reverse osmosis. So that's the problem. They're too big to get through to my lid, which is going to be my cell. And so what you get from living water, what you get from the H2 fuel bottle, which also puts hydrogen into the water. More hydrogen, you know, pH, higher pH, we always drink 9.5 instead of around 7 or 7.5. For those of you that love soda water, those pHs are around 5 or 4, very acidic to the body. So in 3 minutes, you'll have hydrogenated water there. So what happens here? What you need to know is this. You got dead water on top. You got a cell that needs water inside. And the grinder, in this case, this is what's going to allow the water, you know, or in this case, the pepper, to get into the cell. So I hope that makes it easy. And we're going to take this now when we go do exhibits, because it's real easy to use. So a little more time on water tonight, and I'm going to take you through our air and surface and a couple other things here. Fresh Air Personal, okay? It's important that people understand this doesn't denature anything. I clip mine on. Lori likes to put her around her neck, right? So what does this do? It gives me about 20 or 30 inches around me, kind of a force field. You know, we consider it PPE, personal protective equipment. It's like an electronic mask. And so it's using ionization to repel and keep particulate matter away. So why is that important? Well, aerosols, dust, pollen, things like that. What do? That's the thing that viruses and bacteria and whatnot like to float around on and attach to, and you can breathe it in. So when you're wearing this, you're getting a level of protection that's actually better than one of those blue masks, okay? So I want you to understand this technology. And then we have this little living proof device here. Some of you have seen this. And so we'll try to keep it at an angle where you can see it. So we already have a little bit of oil on basically what amounts to a coil. That coil is going to be heated. It's going to create smoke. And then we're going to show you how multi-point brush ionization actually works. It's inside, you know, the ionization from this. And then when we get to some of these other devices, you'll have a better understanding of this technology, because this is not Active Pure. It's part of Active Pure. The Active Pure is what denatures those pathogens, that threat in the house, that threat in your space. So what we're going to do, and if I was really, really good at this, I would have already turned that on while I was yammering at you. So thanks for your patience. And hopefully you can see there's some smoke starting to roll into that. There we go. Yeah, I can see that here. Hopefully you can see that. Give me a thumbs up, Antonio, if you can see that smoke. All right, good. So we'll give this just a few moments. And what's important to understand is, you know, this is a sealed box. We've clamped it down. There's 2 lights inside there. That's why you see bright light. But there's no fan and there's no exit. So where does this stuff go? Well, same place it goes with this, or with the Air and Surface Pro, or with the mobile. It's going to take it out of the air very fast, about 200 times faster than gravity. So imagine getting that out of the asthmatic's breathing space, the things in the air, mold spores, whatever. So we've got a good amount of smoke. So we're going to turn off the smoke. Don't blink because you'll miss it. And we're going to turn on this technology. And you can see it looks like a little tornado came in there and cleared it out. Well, in actuality, all that smoke, which is just, in a sense, burnt oil, it just drops it down to the bottom of the unit and out of the breathing space. So hopefully that's a good example of what that technology is doing for you. Get rid of that light. And then I think you can see our little black box here. I'm going to talk first about what's inside it. So besides the ionization, the multi-point brush ionization that's getting stuff out of the air, how do we really take the threat out of the environment? Well, this little cell here, this is an Active Pure cell. You can see the honeycomb shape inside there. And on the inside is electroplated 4 rare earth metals. There's also a UV light, not for the purpose of disinfecting, but we're recreating what God does outside. You know, with lightning and moisture and oxygen and things in the air, we're recreating that inside, because when you come from the outside, which is very cleansing, you know, that's why the best place to be, and even more cleansing and feel good if you're by the beach or by a waterfall, right? So this little cell that's been developed well beyond where it started back in when NASA was trying to figure out how to grow food in the International Space Station. So 7 years, Mike Jackson and some engineers advanced this so that we could have all this touch and go technology, as I like to call it. So that's sort of the silver bullet inside of this unit. And you can get this unit so that it'll produce some ozone if you want, you know, stronger odor control. But you can also get it, very important to know this, also get it if you want it to be certified to not produce any ozone. And that device is CARB certified, California Air Resource Board certified. And, you know, so there's all kinds of ideas about ozone. You can have it, use it, or you can have none of it, whatever works for you. So touch of a button, we turn this on. And when it first comes on, you're going to get the multi-point brush ionization, and you're going to get the Active Pure molecules. coming out of the top of this little 7.5 pound box, okay? So this burns like 43 watts of energy. And the air that comes out, it's very quiet, even on fan speed 5. I don't imagine you can probably hear it. Comes out the top about 1,200 feet per second. Where does it go? Well, it goes everywhere that air can go. So think of it like our microwave oven, which is behind that poster back there. And when you cook microwave popcorn, what happens? You can smell it upstairs. Kids know it right away, right? It goes everywhere. Law of gases, high concentration to low. And so this disperses very, very fast. And guess what comes out? There's basically 4 hydroxyl molecules, one of which is dry hydrogen peroxide. And what does it do? Well, we don't say we kill things. We get more accurate than that. These hydroxyl molecules come out. They get on the surfaces. They get in the air. They go up in your cold air returns into your HVAC system, treats that. And basically what's happening is it's breaking the biofilm of the pathogen. So mold, bacteria, viruses, variants, it doesn't matter what it is. They all have a common weakness. And ActivePure and Vollara have figured out how to take advantage of that. You crack that shell, and what's inside is no longer infectious, no longer able to replicate, right? So how cool is that?
Scrubbing bubbles.
Yeah, like scrubbing bubbles. And, without getting into a bunch of the science, and there's plenty of it, we have all of the unaffiliated, third-party, FDA certified labs, military biosafety, level 3, level 4 labs that have provided the scientific evidence that these devices actually do what the company claims they do. And so when Lori and I first looked at this, the science is what we wanted to know. Are the devices easy to use? Are they cheap to maintain? And do they last a long time? When all of those boxes could be checked, we knew this is something that we could share with other people with a great deal of confidence. Okay, so I'm gonna move on over to the AP500. This is a nice little device. It's a little shiny from my end. There we go. The AP500 will do 250 square feet. And what's really nice about this device, it's a lockdown device. So initially, yeah, you see that it's gonna plug into an outlet, right? And it's gonna steal both your outlets. But what's nice is you got an outlet here that you don't lose and an outlet on the other side. So you don't lose your outlets. You can screw this down into the electrical plate so that it can't easily be taken. So it's great for bathrooms or small offices, things like that. And it puts ActivePure molecules into a space, and it's very effective up to 250 square feet. And this one, if I didn't mention, up to 2,000 square feet, okay? So we're very mindful too about the number of people in a space. So if you had a classroom and you had 10 kids and a teacher, you might get by with one of these. If you had 30 kids in there and a teacher and a teacher's aide, you might need 2 of these because of all of the additional off-gassing from these kids. One kid comes in with a cold, right, or a virus of some kind, everybody's gonna have it in the air. It'll be everywhere before you know it. So this AP500 is pretty cool. And then Lori here, my Vanna. So the mobile unit, what's really nice about this, it's a miniaturization of the technology inside this Air and Surface Pro Plus, okay? So 50 square feet. So think cars and trucks and boats, RVs, maybe a small masseuse office, with their table and a little bit of space. What else do you like about this?
Well, think about sport, driving those kids around that are hockey players or
soccer
players.
Their clothes always smell good, right?
Yeah, the stinky sports socks, shoes. Not with this. Takes it away.
Yeah.
And even if you're driving past maybe a factory or a skunk, you won't smell it.
Yeah.
You just keep this running in your car.
Yeah. I hate to get too graphic, so I'll put this in terms that probably won't work. Lori and I drove about 17,000 miles last year, and every now and then, you might just have to, And then I would just wait to see if she never noticed, you know, so I know this thing works. So I hope you get my drift there. Anyway, so Pet Refresh is really cool because this is going to put active pure molecules out into the air, get to the root cause of odors and stuff. So where do you put it? There's a couple of places. The most common would be cats and pets, like near where they sleep or eat, and help get rid of that pet odor, right?
Yeah.
But Lori, we have 6 boys between us.
How about near a diaper pail? Yeah. Or a teenager's bedroom?
Yeah.
You know, there's so many different things you could use this for. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, if you have a teenager, you got to get like 4 of these. Get one in a socket in every part of the room. So I'm going to briefly touch on this item, and then we're going to talk lastly about the Laundry Pure, which is really amazing. So if you haven't heard about the Steady Power, there's 2 lines because you have 2 lines of electricity that come into your house, basically. This gets mounted on the wall next to your electrical panel. It has to be done by, yeah, it's really this small. Yeah, you just need to see this. The rest of it's just a metal box with some wires. You have to have an electrician put this in, okay, licensed electrician. And what does the Steady Power do, as the name implies? It regulates the power coming into your house. So it's going to eliminate spikes and surges and whatnot. We know that it's good for, like if you have any white noise on a TV, I don't know if that exists anymore, but if you have power fluctuations, guess what happens? Your power goes out and then all of a sudden it comes back on. You get a big power spike. Your fridge comes back on, your air conditioner comes back on, your computer, your fans, whatever. And that spike becomes a part of that month's how you get billed. Okay, so this is regulating those things, but it's also amazing that this will take the hit of the lightning or a big power surge. And if anything gets through it, it has a 10-year warranty. And if anything gets through this and damages your electronics, it comes with a $25,000, I'd say, electronic life insurance policy. Okay, said enough. Now,
this is one of my favorites right here.
Yeah. Well, I hope it's still a favorite of Lori's, because I actually have something I'm going to share with you tonight about this that Lori doesn't even know yet. And it was really hard to hold that back. So just basically, as the Air & Surface Pro, our little black magic box, puts dry hydrogen peroxide, dry hydroxyls out into the air, right? Affecting all the air, all the surfaces in a space. Well, this puts active pure molecules into your water, specifically your cold water that would normally go from your cold water spout from your house right into your washing machine. This gets in the way, all right? You mount it on the wall. I did it. It's real easy. And instead of your hose going to the washing machine, it goes to the Laundry Pure. And then the water, when you start your laundry, water comes out, goes into your washing machine. So guess what? We wash our clothes with
nothing.
Exactly. Cold water, okay? No soap, no fabric softeners. You're not going to be heating water, okay? So you're going to save energy. You're not going to be dumping all that soap out into the environment, which is the places where we live, right? It eventually is going to get into the ground and go somewhere, right? And you're not throwing big plastic empty jugs of soap into the landfill. You're not having to use dryer sheets. Your clothes come out fluffier, right? And why would we do that? So quaternary ammonia, or quats, that's the easy way to say it, is in all those soaps. And guess what happens when you wash your clothes in soap? Well, after the spin cycle, you put them in your dryer and you've got soap residue. There's no washing machine's going to get all that out. And you dry it, then you wear it.
You sweat.
And you sweat, and the residue of that soap, those quats, they're going to get into your skin pores, and it's going to get into your bloodstream. And you think, well, how bad could that be? Well, I don't know. I don't want the chemicals in my body if I can find ways to do it. And that's part of this whole thing of teaching people through Healthy Home Showcases about getting the enemy out of the camp, get the chemicals out of your body.
Your living space, you want it to be a clean place, that all these things add up.
So what's also nice, so then you're not wearing the quats all day long. And you're not sleeping them in the sheets, between the sheets all night long and on your pillowcase. And so we love getting that emmy out of the camp. And then we also, available with this, it's a separate item, it's a diverter valve that hooks up so that, as the name implies, you can divert the water coming out of this Laundry Pure into a bucket or onto a rag, whatever, and you can clean with it. We've cleaned our cars. We've cleaned what, Lori?
Well, yesterday I cleaned the grill. I cleaned the grill with Laundry Pure water.
Okay.
No grill cleaner, none of that stuff that really, usually the grill cleaner is really strong, toxic stuff. I clean the grill with water.
Yeah. So guess what else can be cleaned? This is what Lori doesn't know about.
My bicycle, I clean my bicycle.
You can clean your bicycle. I've cleaned my golf clubs with that water. It worked really good. What Lori doesn't know, and I'll share with you guys tonight. So I decided to do a personal experiment. And so for 5 days, and it's not like I don't shower. You know, if I come in from yard work, I'm going to need a shower. If I've gone play pickleball, I'm going to need a shower. But what I haven't done for 5 days, and so far she hasn't noticed, is I haven't worn deodorant. And Native is a good brand of deodorant. It's about as natural as you can find. That's what we use. But I haven't used any deodorant for 5 days. Well, I just wanted to see. So away from Lori, without her knowing, I'd go down to the laundry room. I'd divert some Laundry Pure water onto a cloth and wash my armpits. And I was like, well, see what happens. So that experiment is ongoing. And it was a little weird tonight. I was concerned because, you know, if you got to go out in public, it might be a little different. And I went to a fundraiser for a guy that's running for governor here in Illinois. And, you know, I just used my Laundry Pure and threw my shirt on and went, and it worked okay. So, you know, who knows? The important thing is when you have this technology in your home, you'll start to experiment. You'll start, you know, we just started putting not Laundry Pure water, but living water at 5.5, which plants really like. Lori kind of explores these things. And so we'll fill 4 or 5 big buckets of Laundry Pure living water with 5.5 pH. And we put it on around all our tomato plants and pepper plants and whatnot in our garden. And we're going to see if that makes a difference, because we know they like that versus being sprayed with municipal water that's full of chlorine, for one. So
we got everything.
I think we've covered. So. Can you send it over there?
Yes.
I think we've covered what we would like to cover. And we would especially like to, if you can flip the pictures back up, and we'll stop the recording here. So I hope that when we have these sessions, and